Hello, hello. Hey, everyone. This is definitely one of the coolest setups that I've been a part of online. I think obviously there's a lot of cool things that are happening in crypto as well. And so I do want to make sure that I get through all of the things that I have been asked to talk about on the early stage incubation and advisory side of things. But I'm pretty excited as well for all the interesting folks after me that will be also sharing some of their wisdom in their own domains. I'm, as Fiona introduced, Calvin from Impossible. We're a decentralized accelerator and we work with a lot of early stage projects. We're thankfully lucky enough to have Humanode on the Impossible platform for our launchpad as well. So many of our users are proud Humanode token holders as well. I think it's definitely one of the most fruitful things for us to see, part of the early stages of a project culminate in having a token and a product go live. So we've seen both of that for Humanode already. And I think it's something that isn't to be taken lightly as, we've seen many interesting folks build things across the space over these years that we wanted to share a little bit of some of the perspective that we have today to kick today off. I think some of the other speakers like Ivan, I think in the next session is, I think we all have been around in DeFi for quite a while, but we've also done, I think, a lot of things to try and welcome the next wave of new users, new participants into the ecosystem. I think it's really important that teams always continue to try and think of what new ways they can contribute to the space. And that all the work that we do together is something that is what builds an ecosystem step by step. So I think I would love to kind of share a little bit of the ways that Impossible thinks about kind of the newest narratives and the newest things that we think that the space may build. And I think Humanode is one of the products that we think fits what we think is necessary for the future of DeFi. I think at its core, oftentimes I think a lot of the narratives and the things that people ask about, what's hot or what's the trending sectors, all these things, they often ask an accelerator. And admittedly, accelerators actually are needing to be almost 1, 2, or 3 years ahead of the curve whenever they work in trying to select project teams that they like, that they think can grow, because as we all know, building isn't done overnight. All the work that the teams that eventually have a product is something that often takes many years to really hone and get to the state that they are, right? I think I've been reading paradigm research and looking at things around Humanode for now many years. And I think that this type of slow grind is something that is a very important part of the build up in finding ways to build a meaningful ecosystem, right? And so for Impossible, I think one of the things that we have thought a lot about is the future of chains, or what needs to be a chain. Especially, I think we mentioned earlier that all the participants will also get a interesting participation award and NFT as part of showing up here. And I think that we also see all these types of actions of good behavior, let's say, whether this is showing up to an event like this or participating in some sort of on-chain product, that these are all things that build up some sort of on-chain personality or identity for an individual, right? And I think that if we see value in that, and even the offline versions or the online versions of these types of events, that of course even more of the on-chain actions that we do as digital citizens, I think is something that is worthy of being tracked. And so in two kind of core verticals, we see both infrastructure being incredibly important and chains being a certain type of obvious infrastructure that also requires community building and as well as other tooling to make sure that it actually works. That we see projects like Humanode being intersections of multiple kind of core pillars of what we see as needed in crypto. That's what helps make project teams kind of fit our thesis and fit the thesis of many other early stage advisors and incubators in the space that want to see these types of cornerstone, projects in place, so that then we can build a better, greater crypto ecosystem. As a whole, I think that there's a lot of things that each project team needs to pick up over time. I think, for example, the Humanode team has been able to work with many teams with its bot basher product to help reduce the number of fake accounts and bots in other folks' Discords and Telegrams. But this gives a lot of ways to reduce the bad quality or noise, if you will, that we see in the space, and helps hopefully increase signal. This is something that clearly brings value to all participants in the ecosystem. All the stats that you see in the followers stats in the Discord chats and stuff, if it's more clear, you are part of a better group. And I think that's something that step by step, a lot of the different features and products that a team like Humanode have been able to do over this time, those are the things that we love to see as incubators and accelerators, right? When you start seeing that your teams in your portfolio are actually able to help other project teams as well with the synergies that they bring to the table, it's always a win-win then, right? And it makes us really excited to be able to make introductions to new teams because Humanode is able to almost infrastructuralize or scale the way that they can help many project teams in all of our portfolios. So I think that's something that is always going to be, a work in progress. It's never going to be a finished challenge, if you will, but that there is a lot of things that as an early stage player, we get to see a lot of this magic happen when we see different teams working together. And I think that that's definitely one of the most beautiful parts of it, of the journey in crypto. So I guess I'll pause there first. I think I don't know if there's going to be more interactive versions of different sessions. I know some folks have more structured conversations, and some will have some other questions off the cuff as well. But maybe I'll put Shannon and Fiona back on the spotlight if you guys have any questions that you want to dive deeper into.
Well, actually, for this part, you're free to say whatever you want. I'm actually waiting for some questions to come in here. Haven't received any yet, but Fiona, do you have any questions that you'd like to ask?
Okay, I am also scrolling at the question, but yeah, Calvin said it was about the world where like human are in the metaverse, something like that, right? So it's the metaverse. So why do you think that those projects are the ones worth looking at?
Yeah, so I would say I didn't catch the earlier part, but I guess I think I understood what you were asking. In terms of all the different products in this space, I think, like I said, as an incubator, our job is to always think about what's 2-3 years out. I think admittedly, even when I wear like VR goggles still, I get pretty dizzy. I don't think that the technology of a lot of immersive experience is there yet. But the things that we can do to try and create these types of more immersive experiences or create systems where people, enjoy spending time, that's always a recipe for value, right? If people want to stay in an ecosystem that you have, it is valuable. It's the reason why big cities are expensive, right? People want to live in those big cities because there's opportunities, there's fun, there's lots of things that they can do. I think the same works for all on and off chain elements. With regards to metaverse, of course, maybe some people have overhyped certain elements of different things as well. But
Yeah.
that in terms of being able to create some real sustainable value, I do see, whether it is even the participation NFTs on Galaxy or other places, right? If people find meaning in something, then it has value. I think that's the core definition. And so it doesn't matter that, this NFT is not, some sort of 10,000 supply or other things like that.
Yeah.
Whatever people actually come to show up and create value together, they create value because they can congregate. I think that's a core value that we see hopefully someday some of these metaverses being able to achieve as well.
Thank you.
Just
Thank you.
a general question here. Looking at these new emerging markets, obviously, they each have their challenges. Some of them are, fairly technical. Some of them are, you know, monetary and whatnot. But how do you see the role of civil resistance, or if adding civil resistance to any of the upcoming projects would have any effect on the space, or what is the importance of civil resistance you see in the metaverse or Web3 or upcoming things?
Amazing question. And I think there's a lot of different ways I could answer this, but I think there's one that everyone likes that I want to touch on first, which is retroactive airdrops. Everyone always wants to have a nice airdrop, right? But I think the problem about this is always like the problem between teaching a man how to fish and just giving man a fish, right? I think the main thing is that when we don't have tools around civil resistance, it's a lot easier to end up having to just give everyone fish because you don't know who is a man even, right? And you're just trying to help everyone around you. And I think it often comes with great intentions, right? A lot of teams are trying to actually do good things and try and get some positive branding for their ecosystems and getting some positive traction, right? But if we don't actually end up creating systems that reward genuine users, we are actually going to always give less fish per person and give less skills per person to actually let themselves figure out how they can survive. Obviously, we see this in real worlds as well, right? In terms of stimulus packages and other things like this, these types of quantitative easing and whatever it might be from the banks. We always see these types of quote unquote artificial injections of some sort of stimulus into ecosystems of real world economies, right? But we don't make people rely on only those, or at least hopefully we don't, right? Of course, thankfully I don't work in traditional economy, so I'll let the ECB and US Treasury speak for anything on this side, right? But in terms of what we can do as a team in this space and as products in this space, we actually shouldn't be trying to let things be too easy to be earned in crypto. Everything obviously of the kind of impressions that the outside world has on crypto, of the get rich quick and all these types of things, you know, it's something that actually I think slows down the true progress that we actually can have in on-chain ecosystems. And I see that if we have better systems in place to identify who are real users, we can do a lot more beneficial work in encouraging the right types of behavior inside the system, whether that's using products more, returning customers, you know, doing these types of more targeted levels of engagement, because we know that the person that's making a transaction on a chain from a certain address is a real unique user. I think that's magical. And I think that this, to me, it's still early. It's still a type of building block. Admittedly, it may take time before people realize that, you know, sustainably building ecosystems is going to pay the real long-term dividends. And not every project is going to play this game, right? There will be project teams that choose to try and do other things that maybe they actually don't want to find out how many fake users they may have. It's incredibly reminiscent to my time at Binance when I was writing my university thesis before I joined Binance on crypto exchanges. And at that time, I saw a lot of data around fake volume with regards to other exchanges. And I think that the exchanges that were able to prove that their volume was much more legit, they actually are the ones that are around today. The ones that weren't worried about trying to, you know, filter through what's real and what's not, I don't think a lot of them are around. And I think that's kind of one of at least something that sticks in my mental model of what worked in last bear market cycle before seeing a bull market. You know, I think that a lot of the things that we're not afraid to do, the things that don't scale, the product teams that are willing to try things that made sure they got quality over quantity. I see civil resistance as one of these core cornerstones, right, of making sure that the work that you're doing is meaningful, not just empty stats. We all can create stats if we want to create stats. But the question is, can we make meaningful stats? And I think that's the challenge we all have as early stage projects in an early stage space.
Well, thank you. And I totally agree with you there. You know, I spent 20 years, 25 years in journalism. So I spent a lot of time doing some deep dive research in a lot of companies and a lot of projects. And it really comes down to, there are projects or there are products that get a big hype and, boom, they become the keyword and everybody loves them. And then they disappear after 1 or 2 years because they actually didn't have much inside. And, they weren't able to actually build a real user base. They got a quick fan base that moved on, but they didn't have a core user base to support their projects. So I mean, yes, with the whole mentality of get rich quick, that seems to be that has been, on many people's minds. It might take some time, but I do believe that what you said there is right on the mark. So.
Thanks. I do think I'll play a little bit of a devil's advocate. I agree with most of what you said there as well, but I would say one small piece that I would add to that is that I do think that for the project teams that have not maybe found an exact fit, I also don't want project teams that may be listening here today to feel like everything is set in stone. I think Ivan's just joined us as well, and I think the ideas of Gearbox and the features, the different vaults and strategies that have been available inside their product too is something that is always going to have to evolve. And it's up to the team to always find new ways to figure out new implementations of the technology they have. I think we've seen the same levels of pivots via products like Humanode as well. And always new roadmap items on the roadmap, right? Rolling out to give more ways for Humanode to work with other projects too. I'm pretty excited about this EVM rollout and seeing a lot of governance posts around new protocols coming over to the chain as well. And I think that this type of work and kind of slow grind is something that I think is super meaningful. But I also don't want people to be discouraged that things aren't fast. I think Ivan and I have plenty of memes about every time we buy stable coins, the market pumps without it. But on the flip side, right? It's always something where to not second guess ourselves and really just to commit on the work that we do in this space. I think I want to leave maybe a positive note for all builders that there's always still more ways for us to figure out collaboration points. So it's never something that is limited to what you first thought of. I think part of the beauty of what we can do in on-chain worlds is the mixture of the resilience and the transparency of the chain with the resilience and the flexibility of a human making decisions, right? Hopefully we're not all AI people yet, and that there's still
not yet.
Exactly. That we can try and work on to plan on how can we work together. So my small shill for Impossible is that if anyone's building in the space and is just looking to have some interesting folks to bounce ideas with and work on early stage problems, we love the grind of this working with early stage projects, and we're always happy to speak with project teams. So any teams can feel free to apply to work with us at impossible.finance/apply. We're always on Twitter, Telegram, wherever it might be. And likewise, I want to make sure that the crowd has some good time to chat with Ivan as well. So thanks so much for the time today, and really appreciated all the questions and thoughts from you guys.